Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. This podcast is designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who want to leave a legacy and will provide strategies that focus upon key elements for legacy creation, determining your desired impact and its benefit, increasing your legacy's reach by engaging key stakeholders, planning, prioritizing, and executing. Here's your host, Dr. Lois Sonstegard.
Welcome, everybody, to today's Building My Legacy podcast. I have with me today Steven Glaze. He is Vice President of Sales for Smart Exteriors. And you may wonder, why do we have somebody with smart exteriors on Building Legacy? Well, he has built a business from the ground up and has a lot to share down that, but also that journey is what many of those who will be building legacy will think about as they think about that next chapter. And you wonder, how do we grow? How do we build it? How do we make it so it truly leaves a legacy? So Steven has also written a book called Exterior Siding in Kansas City. It's available on Amazon, and it's all his research on what materials, new things that are coming, and his experience with the business. So Steven, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you talk a little bit more about yourself, your journey, what got you doing what you're doing, and share a little bit with the audience about your company's business growth and so some of what you've learned and struggled through.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me. So I started in the exteriors business. I kind of grew up in it. My father owned a roofing and remodeling business. And so I started working in that business the summer between my sophomore and junior year in high school. And my first job that summer was I would go and knock doors in a neighborhood that had just recently had like hail damage and offer free estimates. And they would, I'd get people to say, yeah, I need an estimate. And so then I'd take their name and number, and then we'd send a sales rep out there to contact them and then kind of go through the process. And so that's how it started that summer. By the end of the summer, I was actually giving the estimates. And then I would, if somebody decided they wanted us to do the work, I would, fill out the order form and material list, and then we would send the crew out, and I was managing the crews. And so by the end of the summer, I was doing the whole process from knocking the door to collecting the final check. And I did that, the summers during high school, and then went to college for a couple of years, junior college, and came back and just worked in the family business on the sales side of things and kind of growing it. And that business model was one where we did travel like within about a 4-hour radius to wherever there was hailstorms. The business model was storm damage restoration and primarily roofing. And for many, many years, it was a great business model because we would go to some of these towns would be smaller towns, and you would have everybody in the town just needs a new roof, and there may only be one roofer in town, and you'd have 2 or 3 that come from out of town, and there was so much work that we couldn't all do it. There was plenty to go around. In 2008 and 2009, when the new construction housing market kind of crashed, I think everybody got into doing exactly what we were doing. And so where we would go to a town that had just gotten hit with hailstorm, and there would be 40 companies from out of town, all knocking doors. And so you can imagine the homeowners were just put off by it. Where it used to be, they used to be glad to see us and, hey, you can't leave, you got to talk to my neighbor. And now it was like, there's a sign on the door that says, if you're a roofer, don't stop, don't knock my door, and, I'll call the police. And I mean, it got ugly because there's just people as a nuisance. And so the fact that the business had changed a little bit, and, I was growing a family, I've got 3 daughters, and my wife doesn't like me being gone all the time. And so it was actually her idea. She said, I'm going to start a business, local business, where we do some of the same things, exterior remodeling, but it's going to be local. And so I finished up the last hailstorm I was on. I came back. She had kind of already got the business formed and everything. And we just started with that. And, when you start a new business, I think I knew how to I knew how to sell the products, but I didn't know how to get somebody to talk to, because, you know, it's easy to go knock doors when you know that everybody in that neighborhood needs what you have. But, when you're doing just retail sales, like, not everybody in the neighborhood is going to buy a new
Right.
roof or new siding or new windows. So the first thing that we did was, there are services out there where you can actually buy leads, like homeadvisor.com, things like this, where they basically do advertise online, and then they offer customers three references from reputable contractors. Customer fills out their information, and then they sell it to 3 different contractors, and then we can go give them estimates. So I started off doing that, and then as I started building up a little bit of business, I quickly realized that I needed to get organic listings online. I needed to get people to call me as opposed to me buying these leads, because for one thing, you're competing with the guys that are actually doing the work. Okay, there's a lot of I hire subcontractors sometimes to do the work, and then I would find myself competing against the guys that work for me for the same business, because they were using Home Advisor as well. And so then we moved into AdWords with Google. You can advertise there, and you can actually pay to be at the top of Google, and that's very expensive. But once I got it figured out, it became lucrative. We built a website, and when you first start a business, you build this website. It's basically credibility. You're looking for, when somebody's looking into your business or doing their due diligence, they want to go to your website and see that you're a real company and some work that you've done and all of this. And that's important. But then I realized that conversion optimization is also important. And once you get people to your website, you want them to, fill out the form and ask for an estimate,
Right.
especially if you're paying AdWords a lot of money to send people to your website. And so after that expensive lesson, we redid the website and had it optimized, and started seeing some success with AdWords. And then now what we do, we spend a lot of money on just organic search engine optimization. We have a lot of calls coming in,
Okay,
and so it's not so much about.
When you say organic search optimization, many people use the word organic, and it means different things. So what does that mean to you?
It means to me, when someone is searching for new siding in Kansas City, on Google, they type that in. There's the first 3 links at the top are going to be paid advertisers. They pay per click to be there. Then you've got a map, and then you start to get what's called the organic search results, which is it's organic. Google just places you on their page based on a lot of different factors. And that's where I try to be, because it doesn't cost me. I'm not paying Google to be there, so I call it organic. Okay, I pay people to work on my website and continue to optimize, and I do things like I'm doing today with the podcasts and blog posts and write books and create content so that Google will put me there, but I'm not paying Google per se to be there. And so that seems to be where you get the best bang for your buck, I think. And then it was about building a reputation. I mean, Google reviews are probably the most important thing that we've done to grow our business. I mean, I never used to ask for Google reviews. They just kind of came organically, but not very often. And now we have a whole process in place where after we get done with a project, I mean, our customers get a 10 of brownies, and then we send them an email asking for a review, and then a couple of days later another one, and then 2 weeks later another one, and it's real easy for them. It's got a link where all I got to do is click on it and fill it out. And as you start to build that reputation, you start to separate yourself from the competition. Your margins get a little higher, and things start to snowball and start to really go well.
So, Steven, in today's world of COVID, incredible uncertainty, where do you see small business and your growth? You've grown now from being a very small business to now having people that are part of it. So you now are, as you said, have gone from having a job to having a business. So Tell us a little bit about how you see the current environment impacting you and where you see the future.
I think that the current environment with COVID just accelerated the transition to online. I mean, everything was already heading in that direction, and I think that this just accelerated it. For instance, in our business, another way that a lot of my competitors generate leads is through like home shows and fairs and festivals. They'll set up a booth and they'll have people anywhere there's people. They set up a booth and offer their services, and all of that got canceled.
Right.
And so it was kind of benefited me because we didn't do a lot of that. We focus everything online, and we've kind of been doing that for the last few years, and really positioning ourselves to be, when somebody goes online in Kansas City and looks for home exteriors, they see us everywhere. They see good things. And so I think that put us in that right spot. Now everybody's trying to play catch up because they're like, oh, great. I guess we got to move online because that's the only place people can go to find us. So I think it just accelerated. And no matter what business you're in, I mean, it's moving in that direction. In fact, I mean, with Black Friday and Cyber Monday, I mean, we're starting to see, they're saying, I think 75% increase over last year in terms of the online shopping, just for all goods and services. So I think that that's where it's going. Is you have to develop an online strategy if you have any sort of business at all, I think. And I think that the way Google wants you to do that is create content and create value for your customers, through information sharing and reviews, and just being that resource really online is a great way to do that.
So for you, if you are talking with somebody who's thinking of starting a business, your number one advice would be what?
Document your successes. So what I mean by that is every time you have a good experience with a customer, you need to document that, whether that is before and after pictures, whether that is an interview, whether that's a video testimonial. You've got to document it, and then you've got to put it online, because what happens is, if I do a job for you and you are extremely happy with me and you love everything about the experience, you're probably going to tell, maybe the people you work with, and maybe, a friend and a family member or two. But if I can document that, if I can get you to create a online testimony or a video testimonial, or even write a review, and it gets posted online, everybody who Googles my company gets to see that. And if you do that over and over and over again, now you create a reputation, and people, they see the experience that other people have had. And it's not you telling them that, hey, I'm wonderful and we do a great job. It's just past experiences that people have had, sharing their experience, and it's all very positive, and they expect that, and then they want to do business with you.
Okay, so I don't want to let time go by without talking a little bit about business, because I think there'll be people listening who at a very pragmatic level are thinking, okay, so what about siding? What's good siding? What do I think about? So let's share some of that wisdom that you have that you can let the audience know. By the way, it is in Steven's book, Exterior Siding in Kansas City, just to remind you that it is available on Amazon. But
it's available on Amazon. It's also available right now for free on my website, smartextpros.com. They can go and download a copy for free. So that's available for your users as well.
We'll have that in the show notes for people, so they have a way of accessing it. So, okay, wisdom on siding. What does one want to think about?
Well, so there are a lot of different things, but I always look at warranties. And so the biggest thing with siding is people don't want maintenance, right? They want to, if they're going to replace a siding on their house, they want it to last a long time, and they want it to look good for a long time. And so with that, you're looking at pre-finished products, and the top two pre-finished products right now are, number one, James Hardie fiber cement, and number two would probably be LP Smart Side. One is an engineered wood, that's the LP Smart Side, and the other is fiber cement product, and they both are made to look like wood siding, and they come pre-finished from the factory. The issue with that is anytime you paint something or you finish something, you have to worry about fade with the sun. The sun fades things. And that's why most people are repainting their house. Is not necessarily because the paint is peeling and cracking coming off of the house. It's just that it's faded and washed out and it looks like it needs a new paint job. And that happens depending on where you live and how dark of a color you go, it can happen anywhere between 5 to 10 years. So my first recommendation is lighter is better, because the darker the color that you choose, the more you're going to have to deal with fade. So stay away from the navies and dark grays and things like that. That'd be my first suggestion. But then if you go with either one of those products, they're both great. They'll both last, I think one has a 30-year warranty with a 15-year warranty on the fade. The other one is a 50-year warranty, but the deal with LP is they have a 50-year warranty, but it's prorated, so it's not really 50 years. The actual warranty with James Hardie is probably better because it's 30 years, but it's full 30 years, non-prorated. So those are the product, and we install right now more James Hardie than we do anything else. The fiber cement, it's a great product and one that I highly recommend.
Okay, so what do you say to people who are getting ready to get into business? How have things changed from 2020 to what will be, or 2019 to 2020, and what will be 2021?
Again, from a marketing standpoint, it's just all about online and creating that online presence and basically presenting yourself as an expert in your field, whatever that is. And so the way you do that is, by sharing information and creating content and documenting successes like we talked about, and those sort of things. That's how you do that. In terms of, growing a business, I don't think it's changed much. I mean, it's about creating processes and replacing yourself. I mean, when you first start a business, you wear all the hats. I mean, you're the marketing guy, you're the sales guy, you're the production manager, you're the IT guy. You answer the phones, you do everything. And so, exactly. So what you have to do is and this was very difficult for me and something that we still struggle with at times, but it's creating a process for each position, and then that allows you to hire someone. You can't just hire someone and not really have a plan, because it's all in your head, right? When you're doing it yourself, it's like, how to do everything, but they don't. And so, what happens is sometimes it's so much easier just to do it yourself than to train someone. And so you have to take the time and be disciplined enough to sit down and actually create a process for each position. And then you can hire someone and when they come in, you hand them, okay, this is what I need done. This is how I want it done. And it's all, mapped out for them, and it makes it much, much easier, makes less turnover and a much higher rate of success. And so that is something that I highly recommend as you're getting started and starting to grow, is to document and kind of outline the processes for each thing that you do.
What were your biggest obstacles that you had to deal with?
Honestly, that was it. It was creating the processes. We didn't do that at first. We would hire someone and, I'd be like, I'm just so busy. I need to hire somebody to, answer the phone and take the calls and enter the leads as they come in. And, you have in your mind how you want that done, and they start doing it a different way, and then they don't know. And then you get frustrated because they're not doing it right. And, they're getting frustrated because, well, you never really trained me. You just, kind of threw it all at me and told me to figure it out. And so, then you go through turnover, and then you just wasted your time, and it's a very difficult thing. And so I think that was the biggest obstacle for me, was having to sit down and actually, write out those processes and be more organized as far as what I'm looking for and how I want things done, and hiring based on that.
So did you have a system that you used to help you do that? Or did you have people write everything that they were doing, or you write everything that you were doing in a day?
Yeah. So we didn't have a system. What I did was the first person that we actually hired was hired another salesperson. And so what I had to do was I had to create, because so much of my presentation was just from me. I could get out there and explain things, and I would show a couple samples, but it was all in my head, the whole presentation. And so I had to actually sit down and create a presentation for siding, and then a presentation for our gutter guards, and and it was all like, it's in PowerPoint presentation. And so you can sit down with a customer and you can, on this page, you talk about this, on this page, you talk about this, and you walk through that process. And, how you leave the estimate, how you ask for the business. And so I would teach that because that's what I knew. That's what I was really good at. And so that's where I started. That was the easiest process for me to create. So I did that. And then that took a little bit of the, running all the estimates off the table for me. And then it was, okay, we've got all these incoming calls, and we've got a CRM, but it's got to be entered properly. And so then that was the next thing. It's like, okay, when the call comes in, what do you say? How do you take the information? And I would get some help on some of that. Like I would, some of the vendors, I would talk to them and say, hey, some of the successful companies that, are buying a lot of your product, can you put me in contact with them, maybe, in a different market that would share some of this information? And so they did. Some of them had scripts, some of them had that they would give me, and I could kind of tailor it more towards what I want, but it would give me a starting point. And then we just create that process. And then it was like, okay, now, we're putting on these siding jobs and we're using different crews, but we want everything to be done exactly the same. So, when we're talking about window trim, let's come up with a standard, that we always use and the way we always do it. And I can show the guys, hey, when, this job, this is how we do our window trim. And I want every job done exactly this way. And so you just start going through it, and one by one, you're creating processes, and we kind of, I type it all up and document, and then we print it out and put it in little folders and give it to guys. And then you also have a way of managing, holding people accountable, as opposed to just turning people loose and, hoping for the best, which is kind of what I did when I first got started.
I think that accountability piece is such a hard one. And you're absolutely right. Without systems, it's very difficult to hold people accountable. It's your opinion versus my opinion. How do you know it wasn't done, the way it's supposed to be?
And what we found was that the employees want that. They want you to, they don't want to have to guess. They want you make it very simple for them. If you just tell them it's, A, B, C, and D, it's a process, and they just do it. They actually prefer that. They like the training, and yes, you hold them accountable, but it's very little. Once you do it, once they know you're paying attention, then they just fall right in line. It's just, they might veer off just a little bit at first, but then once you say, no, wait a minute, we talked about this, we went through training, and you skip this step in the process, we can't do that. We got to make sure that every single time it's the exact same thing. We don't, for example, on sales calls, sometimes a salesman will prejudge a lead. He'll pull up to a house and say, oh, these people are never going to buy, our siding. Look at their, windows or whatever it is, or they don't mow their grass, or, you can judge it on a million different things. And we have to train people. No. So when you said this, what did they say? Well, I never got that far. Well, you didn't go through the process. You got to go through the process every single time. It's not, your job to pull up and decide who can buy from us and who can't. It's the customer's, decision whether they buy from us, not yours. So go through the process, and then they, they like it. They're more successful. They end up selling more, and we do more, and people are happy, and it just kind of snowballs. But you got to have the processes in place in order to manage.
People want to be successful, but you're absolutely right. We have to give them the tools, right, to be successful. Otherwise, it's a guessing game. What else did you learn?
I'm sorry?
What else did you learn? What else were obstacles that you had to overcome?
I think the next biggest obstacle was, the accounting. That's another big thing. My background, the things that came easy for me were, sales and marketing, and it was the processes and managing, but then accounting. And so with that, I just figured out right away that I wasn't an accountant, and I needed to hire someone to take that on for me. And so I think that's another big, lesson, is that do what you're good at, and don't be afraid to outsource what you're not, so we got with a really good accountant, and they came in, and they set processes like, okay, when, you spend money, you have receipts, and you turn these in, or you log them in here, and, we have to set up processes. And so then we add that to whoever's working on the inside, the office manager is managing that process. And so we add that to, the process maybe that they were already doing some other things, and you just build on it. But I think that's basically it. It was just basically getting processes in place and then getting some accounting help and moving from there.
So how long was it, Stephen, for you to go from starting with you and your wife, even,
Yes.
pounding on the pavement and the doors, to getting to the point where you have been hiring people and you're able to pass some of these activities on to others? What was the lead time for you?
So we're right now with this business, we're finishing year number 5.
Okay.
So we're still really new business. I would say that first year was all about, survival, just creating income to survive. Second year was like, we need some credibility in marketing, and we started getting that. But, as far as I'd say year 4 was when we really started to develop the processes and hire the right people and put that in place. And then year 5 has been, a big success for us. And it's like the bamboo tree. They always say it, it grows underground for 4 years, and then that 5th year it sprouts up. And that was kind of my plan when we started the business, is like, I need to kind of gear this towards, that 5th year to really grow. But I knew that, from watching my dad's business, that you got to have a great foundation. So many people, they want to grow so fast so early, and so they just start hiring people, and they sales go through, but then it's a mess. And then you can also hurt your reputation by that, because you don't have your quality falls down, and then you get some bad reviews, and it's just, so we wanted to go slow and relatively slow. I mean, 5 years is, I think,
5 years is pretty good.
Yeah, right. But I didn't want to just start. I mean, I know I've other companies that have, like, within the first 6 months, they're just hiring lots of people and trying to grow. And, have a couple of them been successful, but they've also had a lot of growing pains. So we took it kind of slow, and the goal was always to really focus on growth, in the year 5. And that's what we've done. And it's worked well.
So for a person who is thinking about getting started with your own business, number one piece of advice would be what?
Again, document your successes for marketing, outline some processes for everything that you do so you can hire, and don't be afraid to get help with the areas that outsource the things that you're not good at. Those would really be my keys of advice.
Steve, our time is almost up. And so what have we left out that you think is important for you to talk about and share with the audience?
Not much. We hit a lot. The book was something that I wanted to talk about. That was a critical success for me in writing that book. It really set myself as an expert, and I've got people that have here locally have downloaded the book, read the book, called me, and told they didn't even get any other estimates. Just basically said, "Hey, listen, we know your stuff. We want you to do the job. Just tell us how much, and you can get started." And so that's the type of customer that you can get once you've set yourself as an expert. And so I think that's another important thing, is just putting out really good content and documenting those successes.
Steve, it's been wonderful to have you with us on Building My Legacy podcast. And it's wonderful to hear your journey and your success, because I think that the road to success is very bumpy, and no one's quite prepared for the bumps that they're going to hit. So it's always good to hear what somebody else's experience is, and to rethink, what is it that I'm doing? Am I doing it the way that is most efficient? Will I get the results that I want? And will I really grow it into a real strong business? So I
Absolutely, Lois. Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. And thank you for listening to Building My Legacy podcast today. Be sure to visit us on our website, buildtomorrow.com, and all of our social media, buildtomorrow.com. We will also have information about Steven's book and about his company in the show notes, so you can get in contact with him. And if you need any further assistance, just let us know. Thank you so much, Steven, and thank you all for listening.
You've been listening to Building My Legacy podcast with Dr. Lois Sonstegard. To book your appointment with Dr. Sonstagard, visit www.buildtomorrow.com.